My brothers and sisters of the division, we're gathered here today in the holy site of the division to get your testimonies. Brother L, can I get your pestify? Pestify, my brother.
Hallelujah.
N-Dub, my other brother of the division, give me your testimony. Let me hear your pestify.
Hallelujah.
Yes. And now we're going to go to the audience out here, and then we're going to see and hear some other people give their testimonies and give them the opportunity to pestify.
Modes in this damn game, and one I came
Now
back,
there's two. Now there's two.
Always, the only one I come back to is solo freaking blackout.
Mm.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Pestify, my brother. Pestify.
And still survive.
Watching this fool right here.
Got
Watch
him.
This guy right here,
Got
regular
him.
player.
Got him.
Oh shit! The one is switching.
Yep, that's my shit. I'm taking it back. Oh, you're down. I didn't want to secure it for anybody.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you, dude? How'd that work out for you?
Yep.
Oh my god, they caught us with the freaking specialist. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. One of them has a sniper bill. I'm going down. My soul cries out hallelujah. Thank God.
Oh shit. Feel rough.
Yeah, APC's got me.
Welcome, my brothers and my sisters, to another division build video. No, just kidding, guys. What's up? This is Relentless here, bringing you another Division 2 video. If you happen to be new to the channel, or you're just enjoying the content, then be sure to ground and pound that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to reach up there, trigger the bell, and turn on post notifications, so that way you never miss a live stream or a video that is uploaded. Hope you guys enjoyed the clip. It was a lot of fun making. There's some outtakes at the end. We had a ball making it, and it's a lot of fun running this build. But without further ado, enough of my rambling. Let's hop right into it, shall we? As you can see, we are running LMGs. The reason for the testimony and all the pestifying would be because of the utilization of the Pestilence. And for this instant, that my Pestilence is hitting for 26.6k. And what is the Pestilence? Plague of the Outcast. After hitting the same enemy 10 times, that enemy is inflicted with Plague of the Outcast for 10 seconds. Whenever an enemy with Plague of the Outcast is killed, they leave a toxic cloud for 10 seconds. That deals 400% weapon damage per second to any inside and inflicts them with Pestilence. So right now my I guess my cloud is hitting anybody within it for like 176k. So it's really nice. The Pestilence talent is this debuff reduces healing received by 50% for 10 seconds. Whenever an enemy with Pestilence would be downed, they are instead instantly killed. The debuff is removed once the enemy is repaired to full armor. But the way that the piss pulls are being dropped at the feet, hitting them 10 times, and at least stifling that healing for at least 10 seconds, comes in really clutch, especially when you're running in a squad when it comes to the Dark Zone. So basically, you're applying the Pestilence whenever you see fit to help further support, depending on what agents you run into and what kind of techniques, I guess you'd call them techniques, by dropping their chem pulls, whatever the heals they're trying to pull off, and it still does a good amount of damage. And even in the normalized, I'll show you the normalized is at 12.9k. Now our other primary on normalized, as you can see, is the military M60E4 at 20.3k, and that is normalized. Now in the ODZ, it's hitting for 40.8k. so definitely a bit of a difference. It has unhinged and a leg, but use whatever LMG you personally prefer. But the Pestilence works really well in the current state of the division right now, especially with the heals and the way that they are. Because usually they're either dropping heals and running defender drones. So yeah, Cloaked and Pestilence is a good combo, especially when you have one of your group running Cloaked and then you have somebody else running the Pestilence. So it works out really well. And then on to holster talents of your pistol. It's basically fielder's choice, whichever you prefer. I'm currently looking for one with Wascally, just so I can have it, because there's a lot of people that wants to use the what I call the cum gun, glue gun, whatever you want to call it, and that will help you get out of a snare. But you could also use like recharged, deployed at full armor, have 25% duration charges, so that can directly apply to my chem. When it comes to Zen, while equipped, resting in cover for 3 seconds removes blind and disorient stats effects. That will help against squads of those that are running the Firefly. And then of course, I do have the Liberty. But whatever you prefer and whatever goes along with your playstyle. And before we hop into the actual build itself, just know that if you have better pieces, then your number is going to reflect that, and thus your skill power will be higher, your skill haste will be lower, and also your armor and health pools also will fluctuate depending on the stats that you have on your gear. This is according to my playstyle, so if you have a similar build, then build it or tweak it as you see fit according to your playstyle. Because building a build is just half of it. You can slap on and copy and paste multiple builds and wonder why it doesn't have the same effect as somebody else using that same build, because that's just half of the story. So don't just copy and paste and according to someone else's playstyle, tweak it to your own personal playstyle so that way you can best utilize that said build. But let's hop into the gear. Let's start out with the chest piece. On the chest piece, we have 12% total armor, 21,286 armor, and then 13.5% weapon damage. And then the only talent we're utilizing is Hardened, because necessarily we don't need a chest piece talent here. I was going more for a survivability versus DPS, because as you can see by my damage output numbers, I don't really need any other talents that'll help me as far as DPS wise, and since it only comes with one particular talent, unlike the Fenris, in which comes with 2, yes, I probably could go with something like Unstoppable Force, because I still meet that 8 defensive Lego utility, but that Unstoppable Force only works if you get a kill. So when we're going in a squad, if you don't hit that final blow to kill that enemy, that other player, then it's not going to proc Unstoppable Force. So I'd rather have that 10% additional armor than take it up to chance and getting that final blow on another player, so that way I can proc something like Unstoppable Force. But whatever you want to utilize, and whatever's best for your playstyle, then go for it. But for me, I'm going with Hardened. And I'm running the 3-piece Yaw gear, which gives you 10% weapon handling, 8% hazard protection, and then 5% weapon damage. In the mod slots, I got 1 defensive mod slot at 5268 armor, 3% protection from elites, and then 2.5% total armor. And then in the offensive mod slot, I got 1% weapon damage, 3% assault rifle damage, and then 4% LMG damage. Now on to the mask. The mask, it only has 5% skill haste on it, and then 341 skill power, but I was able to put spotter on it, so that way I can use spotter, and on top of that, I get that 20% multiplicative damage, so I can hit even harder. But with more skill haste or more skill power, then I can get my cooldowns a lot faster. As of right now, my pulse I think is on a 15-second cooldown, but still 15 seconds is pretty good when playing in a squad. But as I stated, if my attributes were better, then I have a higher skill haste or have higher skill power, so that way I can put a better skill haste mod in that skill, but we'll go over the skills later. Now moving on to the third and final piece of the Yaw gear set, and that would be the Yaw gear gloves. 137 skill power, 11% LMG damage, and of course devastating, plus 5% weapon damage. If you prefer headshot damage and you can consistently hit more headshots than you can body shots, then by all means, then you can put precise here. It's whatever works best for you. For me, in my potato aim, I have to go with devastating, because I have a much larger target when shooting at the body, or sometimes even somebody's ankles. But like I said, devastating, precise, whichever you prefer. Now on to the holster. I'm using the 2-piece Heligard brand set. One piece gives you 5% total armor, and then the second gives you 20% hazard protection. The holster has 42,748 health, and then 371 skill power. And then it has 2 offensive mod slots, and that is why I like Heliguard in basically all my DPS builds, because it has those 2 offensive slots to further your output and damage. But the best mods I have thus far when it comes to LMGs, I have one in this mod slot that has 4% LMG damage, 4% assault rifle damage, and then 1% weapon damage. In the second one, I have 5% LMG damage, 3% SMG damage, and then 1% weapon damage, for a total of 10% extra weapon damage just from these mod slots. And I do have some AR mods that are at 6.5%, so if I had those, that just those few extra percentage, I would definitely be over 41k for sure. So now let's go on to the knee pads. It's a Heliguard knee pads. I have 13.5% total armor on them. We're utilizing patience. After being in cover for 5 seconds, armor repairs by 5% every second. And what's so good about that? Well, I look at it as a damage mitigator. So 5% of my armor, I'm going to get it back every second. If I'm in cover and shooting from cover and taking damage at the same time, then you can kind of guess the damage that you're taking and then kind of calculate, well, how much is that negating? So if I'm getting back, say, 15k armor every second, but yet I'm getting hit for 20k, then really, while I'm utilizing patience, I'm only taking 5,000 damage. So it kind of works out in that way. But if you prefer things like cloaked, I do have a cloaked set of knee pads, as you can see here, and that is basically my go-to or switch to if I run into a lot of players that are, defender drones or shields or things of that nature, to where they're pushing me. So that way, once my armor is popped, I may not have that much survivability, but with cloaked going off and destroying their skills, yes, I might get downed, but it'll also help my teammates. So my death is not for nothing. So I'll disrupt those skills, and then my teammates can, do what they can to finish off anybody else, but yet all their skills, all their heals will be disrupted. So you got to keep that in mind. And we have 2 defensive mod slots and the Heliguard knee pads. In the first one, we have 5107 armor, 3% total armor, and then 1619 armor on kill. In the second one, we have 5655 armor, 445 armor regen, and then 2.5% total armor. Now this is where it gets a little hairy, I should say. I haven't really been able to find a good backpack. Now, this is a Petrov backpack at 15% skill haste, 171 skill power, 10,121 armor. I wish that armor was around 20k and it already had the 10% weapon damage on it, so that would put me around 380k armor, and I would prefer that survivability, but beggars can't be choosers. And then we have hardened, 10% armor, and then skilled is wasted here. Skill kills have a 25% chance to reset skill cooldowns, but if I get a little weary, or we're just sitting there PvPing or whatnot, not trying to get our manhunt off, just wanting to fight in general, then sometimes I could just switch it up and just slap on maybe a seeker mine. Just it's not really going to kill or down anybody, but more or less that this will allow me to get it back much faster. Or if I'm running a repair drone, then I can kind of incorporate that with it as well, but it's basically just a waste. So, but in one of my other LMG builds, I didn't have a Petrov piece at all. And let me explain the reasoning why that I don't necessarily have to use a Petrov piece here, but still get the same base damage with my LMG. Because even though this has 10% weapon damage, I can switch to a Heliguard backpack that'll actually have 10% weapon damage, the same amount of armor, a little bit of health, and as you can see on the yellow numbers on the side of my screen, my armor goes up, my health goes up, and so that 10% weapon damage is more or less taking place of the 10% on Petrov. But then again, the Petrov piece also gives me, for having that one piece, an additional 10% weapon damage to LMGs, so a total of 20%. But Heliguard backpacks do have mod slots, and I can put another 6.5% potentially LMG damage in this mod slot, so technically I would only be missing out on 3.5% weapon damage. But it also has a defensive mod slot, so therefore in turn I can get another 5,000 armor on top of that, and which is I'll just demonstrate now. So it just comes to, is that 3.5% weapon damage really worth? We'll just go with a mediocre one at 4635 armor and 3.5% total armor. So see, it jumps it up 382,785. So when it comes to making builds, this is where you have to ask yourself, do you want a little more tankiness, which in this case would be 30k armor, or do you want to be hitting for 3.5% harder? And so before it was 40.8, now it's at 38.8. So there is a 2k difference, but you have to ask yourself and ask about your playstyle, is that 2k really going to make a difference? Are you going to be able to survive longer and put down more damage? So if you're up longer and able to shoot more, then you're consistently doing more DPS. But if you're good on your shots, and then a normalized 19.1k, so it's not really that much of a drop there, 1400. So 1 to 2000, depending on if you're in normalized or ODZ. So that is the question you basically have to ask yourself. And sometimes I'll switch it up and do it one way, and then others I'll switch it up and do the other. It just depends on, you know, what I'm actually doing at the particular time. But you can do that accordingly. But this did have skill power and skill haste on it, so it does further help me out as far as when it comes to running the pulse. So that is also why I went with the Petrov. But like I said, you might have, you know, a Petrov backpack or piece that has great armor, and then you can put those high weapon damage on it. Or it might already have high weapon damage, and you can roll a super high amount of armor on it. So if you do have those pieces, good job. I guess the RNG gods were, well, you know, blessing you more than it does me, because I have yet to find a decent, good Petrov chest piece. So the search continues. But now let's hop into the character sheet before I continue rambling. 40,778 exactly. And then we have minus the 15% weapon handling. Reason it's only 15% because we do get 10% weapon handling for having that yaw gear piece. 56.5% all weapon damage. And then we get another 49% LMG damage bonus. So a total of 104.5%. Excuse me, 105.5%. I guess I was 1% off on my thumbnail because I put it at 104, but it's actually 105.5% total weapon damage from all weapon damage and LMG damage. And that includes the 20% coming from unhinged. And then AR, if I wanted to somehow switch up to an AR, if I wanted to, let's say I'm running low on ammo or something like that, then I do have 22% assault rifle damage, and then 56.5% all weapon damage, for a total of 77.5% to an assault rifle. So I can still use an assault rifle, or just switch out my yaw gear gloves, because I do have other gloves that have assault rifle damage. Then I can be over 95% weapon damage with it, and then just switching out mods. So it just depends on what you want. Now moving on. No damage to elites because it's a PvP build. Other than, you know, the mods you can put on your weapon. Basically that's all you need in the dark zone. But doing this amount of damage, I do, you know, all my daily activities, control points, things of that nature, with this build, just with the mods on my gun as far as damage to elites. If you want, you know, a PvE build with this, then I do actually have that build on my channel already. It's the LMG build you want is the title, so go check it out. But 10% armor on kill, which is good. And then 18,081 armor regen, almost 70k health, almost 35k health regen, 28% hazard protection, bleed, blind, burn, confuse, disrupt, shock, and poisoned. Skill power is 1020, 20% skill haste, 120 on the drone, almost 2,000 to the chem launcher, and almost 2,000 on the pulse, and the rest are at 1,020. So let's get the skills. Starting with the pulse. As you can see, not too bad, and all I have is one mod at 98.8% skill haste, and then I have an auxiliary battery. So when you're going with a squad, that cooldown is very, very manageable. But if you have better mods, then you can reduce your cooldowns even further. And when it comes to chems, just going off that minimal skill power that I have, I was only able to actually put in one mod for giving me additional 47.1% heal. But, you know, I'm getting almost 75% armor repair just from dropping one pistol. So, you know, it all works. But like I said, if you have better mods, better skill power on the rolls that are on these pieces, because I do have 6 utilities, then you're going to have better mods in your skills, and then thus in turn be more effective with your skills. But we're more or less going off our DPS and not relying on our skills. So we have enough survivability, we have adequate enough skill power, our cooldowns are low enough to be effective when running pults, and we can hit insane amount of damage, because if we're already at our base of 40.8k, then add that 20% multiplicative damage into that every 18 seconds, then you're going to be hitting like a freaking tank. And I don't care how much armor that you have, you better hit all your shots and take out my 361 armor and dance around your pee-pools. But once I hit you with a Pestilence first to negate that 50% healing of yours, and then I'm going to mow you down with the LMG. But it's a lot of fun, especially when you use the Pestilence, because it does help out tremendously in the dark zone with those that are trying those healer builds, dropping their piss pools, doing figure 8s. So it does help out a lot with that, and definitely helps out within the squad. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate all the love and support. We're definitely well on our way to 9k. We're currently almost at 8650. We've gained about 125 subs just in a day, so I appreciate all the love and support. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you fudging later.
You Pestification.
No, you want to pestify. Yeah, okay. Remember, you're supposed to say hallelujah?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know at the time. We both didn't know. Oh,
All right.